So this is the slideshow. I'm focusing on Bitcoin, why and how, because if you go to talk about computers, for instance, computers is a very, very large topic because they're used in every area of life and every area of business. Cryptocurrency is going to be the same way. There's going to be so many areas of cryptocurrency and so many areas where it's used. There's going to be specialty cryptocurrencies, general cryptocurrencies, etc. But Bitcoin is the grandfather of them all, is still the largest. In fact, it's as large as all the rest of them put together and then some. Last time I looked, it was about 60% of the entire crypto coin market space value. And I imagine it will maintain probably above 40% for quite some time to come. It's no longer as much a currency as it is a store of value. For instance, if you look at this chart here, you can see inflation, your $20 coin equaled a shopping cart full of groceries in 1998. 2005, it's a smaller cart of groceries. In 2014, it's a much smaller cart of groceries. In 2021, it's practically nothing. And that's inflation with a deflating currency. Bitcoin was designed to be an inflating currency, which has which acts like deflation, where in 2012, you could buy that little cart full of groceries with Bitcoin. And in 2013, it's a pretty good sized cart. In 2014, it's like an overflowing cart. And in 2021, it's like a Tesla. And that's what money is supposed to be, a unit of exchange and a store of value, or at least it should be. And it was while the dollar was still backed by gold and silver. But when they broke it away from being a gold receipt where you could take it to the Federal Reserve and get your gold for your receipt, which is what a dollar was supposed to be, a receipt for gold or silver, at that point, it was the value of the gold or silver that it was based on. It was just a convenience to use gold and silver that way. But when they took it away from gold and silver, it became forgery. And forgery was a crime even before that, because people were printing dollar bills that then somebody would take the Federal Reserve and couldn't get gold or silver for it. And by doing that, they're taking the value out of the currency. So fiat currencies have become a hidden tax through the unlimited printing, which results in transferring the value of the dollars you earn to the people that print them. And the Federal Reserve and other central banks are private corporations. They're not even governmental entities. The Federal Reserve is neither federal nor reserve. It's a private bank printing money, selling it to the government, which when the government gets more of it, it reduces the value of your dollar, which means what you've earned should not be saved because it's guaranteed to go down. Bitcoin was engineered to be the opposite. So let me make sure, yeah, okay. So money, actually on the last slide still, money is a way to avoid barter. I mean, so you may have eggs and somebody else may have cheese, and you'll exchange eggs for cheese, but maybe the person who has the cheese doesn't want eggs, but you want the cheese, so you got to find a third person, and barter gets very complicated. So these receipts for something that has value that everybody agrees upon is useful. Money is useful. But it's also supposed to store the value of the labor until such time as you want to spend it for something. What is blockchain? Imagine a legacy checkbook. Many people aren't old enough anymore to have actually used a checkbook on a banking account. I'm guessing most of us are. Has anybody not? Silence. A line in a legacy checkbook was for a check or a deposit. In other words, a transaction. So if you view the blockchain as a page in one of those checkbook ledgers where each line represents a transaction and a page represents a block of transactions, and the binding makes that page into a chain of blocks. That literally is what a blockchain is. And it can't be erased because it's written in an ink. You know, your checkbook, you're writing it in ink, and you can't erase from it or remove it. It becomes a permanent part of the ledger, and this ledger is shared between all the miners in the world. And a miner is simply a transaction processing computer. It transfers the Bitcoin from the person who is paying it for something to the person they are paying. That's all a miner does, their transaction processing. But initially, when there were not many transactions that had transaction fees, the miners were given rewards for each. And so they were called miners because you got rewarded for digging gold out of the ground. And so that was kind of an analogy. But the miner is actually a transaction processing computer. And it's not just double entry, but triple entry public ledger. And because it's a triple entry public ledger, it cannot be cheated. Now, the SEC and the IRS and so forth expect companies to do double entry accounting, but triple entry is even safer because you've got the entire world and all the miners who compete for blocks have to add them to their copy of the chain before they can then compete for the next block. And so once a block is there, it's immutable, it's unchangeable. And if there is Bitcoin in an entry, that Bitcoin is later moved to someone else in part or in entirety by a subsequent transaction, which then refers to the prior transaction much later in the chain. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, really well explained.
So the point is Bitcoin prevents forgery because every transaction that has ever been made is there in the ledger. And there's a limited number of Bitcoin available. You can trust the source code and the mathematics and the cryptography because all the computers in the world on the Bitcoin network are working together, executing the same source code, doing the same thing by the same agreement, and they monitor one another. If one of them tries to cheat, it gets kicked off the network, never to be able to join again. And it's too profitable being on the network to be able to afford getting caught cheating.
Good.
So there's no individual that you have to trust. So one of the big things in the world is, you know, the best leader in the world may be great until he gets too much power. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Maybe a few people are strong enough to be legitimate leaders, you know, throughout their lifetime, but then the heir and their heir, it's never gone 3 generations in the entire human history of a legitimate leader. So we need this publicly maintained ledger, not just to maintain our money, but in general to maintain honesty. Now, blockchain spelled with a capital B is the Bitcoin blockchain. Spelled with a small b, it is any blockchain. And all the alternate cryptocurrencies, the altcoins they call them, have chains that they are running on. They're either their own chains or on the Ethereum chain or maybe even on the Bitcoin blockchain. But the Bitcoin one is the biggest one and the one that I would say you can trust without questioning. Others, which are less distributed, are more and more questionable. So Bitcoin, there's only ever going to be 21 million of them. The digital copy problem was solved because there is a private key and a public key. And if you have the private key that is and is held by you, nobody else can access or manipulate your Bitcoin, because the way the miners work is your wallet proves to the miner that you actually own the private key, but you do not send it to them. You simply prove that you have the private key by solving a puzzle for the miner, and that then proves that you have it, and then they transact that Bitcoin on your behalf. So your Bitcoin is never in your wallet. Wallet is a misnomer because you put dollars in a wallet and you take out $1 and you hand it to someone. Bitcoin is on a ledger and it's a private key that you're handing off to the miner to transact the Bitcoin on your behalf to someone else who then gets their own private key to the Bitcoin they got from you, and you retain a new private key to the Bitcoin that's left. And decentralization versus centralization is a major point, because centralized things will be abused in time. There is no centralized thing, because of that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Decentralization can be confused, it can move slower, but it is honestly trustworthy if it's tracked. So Bitcoin is about trust via openness by the majority, via proven history, rather than his story, which our entire history is his story written by the victors. We don't really know what our history is. It's simply what we've been taught, what's been built back to us. We don't have an indelible ledger going back forever. The Bitcoin ledger firing up and being totally immutable since the beginning is now the very first indelible ledger. And so it created a turning point in spirituality and in human relations, major turning point in having that central digital ledger that can be trusted by everyone.
Wow, that's
now,
good.
You don't ever need to own one whole Bitcoin, because as the price of Bitcoin goes up, Bitcoin is divisible into 8 decimal places. So right now, one Bitcoin equals 100 million Satoshis. So you can buy still thousands of Satoshis for a small amount of money, but you can only buy, a 10th or 100th of Bitcoin for reasonable amounts of money these days. A whole Bitcoin now is about $58,000 this morning, I think, when I last looked. And it's been up to $62,000, and it's engineered to continue going up. But if Satoshis become too expensive, the code is already written such that all you've got to do is flip a switch, and then it has 8 more decimal places. So what happens is the people who have a lot of Bitcoin become the richest people in the world, and people who can't afford a whole Bitcoin just simply buy more Satoshis. And as the Satoshis add up and get earned over time, and the value of Bitcoin goes up, their currency is also going up. One of the reasons earning dollars and then keeping dollars is such a complex process, the whole context of investing for retirement. Once upon a time, you could save dollars for retirement. Now there's no way you can save dollars for retirement, because you have to go through complex investment processes with Wall Street that's been busy scamming you, and Wall Street is just waking up to Bitcoin's openness, trustworthiness, etc., and is jumping to get on board. And that's one of the reasons for Bitcoin's rapid growth now. Wall Street has now invested a bunch of money in the Bitcoin infrastructure and in altcoins, and that's the reason this whole technology is taking off. Now, Bitcoin's transaction costs are going up too, which means there are limitations. Maybe if you want to buy a car and you're going to transfer several $1,000s, it's fine to have a $10 or a $20 transaction fee. But if you want to buy a coffee, $10 transaction fee and 20 minutes to an hour to get the transaction approved, that doesn't work. So it's not really digital money in the Starbucks sense. For that, there's Lightning, that's a second layer solution. There's debit cards, or there's alternate currencies that are intended to move much more rapidly and or be spent for smaller amounts. You don't use Bitcoin that way. Bitcoin has become the store of value that's better than gold. Now, the one thing to remember about Bitcoin is if you don't have control of your own keys, if you have your own keys, it is your coin. Not your keys, not your coin. So those of you who own Bitcoin and have purchased it on Quadriga, as Maxine mentioned, or Coinbase, or Crypto.com, or Abra, or Cash App, or any of those are all centralized solutions. And yes, they show that that you own Bitcoin on them, but if you don't, they control the keys on your behalf. And unless you move that Bitcoin off to a private wallet where you control the keys, they can still tell you, you can spend this, you can't spend this, we will report it to the government. You effectively are dealing with a banker. So the idea is get out of the having the keys in their hands. So in preparing to acquire Bitcoin, there are many ways: Coinbase, Abra, Crypto.com, Cash App, but do not use PayPal. PayPal will let you buy and sell Bitcoin, but only on their platform. If you buy it on that platform, you have to sell it on their platform or transact it on their platform. You cannot take your keys off their platform, nor can you check other prices across the network. The price PayPal gives you is the only price that you have a choice of. So Bitcoin is kind of a almost Federal Reserve attempt at Bitcoin. Remember, again, not your keys, not your coin. So for your first Bitcoin, I'm going to recommend one way that has worked in all countries that I've tried it. I'm recommending this link here, CoinMama. You click on that link, create your account, and complete the KYC. That's the Know Your Customer process, where you have to show your driver's license, your passport, basically prove who you are. And then give them the address of your private wallet, and they will transfer to you. But since there is a time frame required to do the KYC, I've inserted another slide here. While the KYC is completing, visit this link. And this slideshow is available. I will go back to the first slide at the end of it, and I'll show you the link where you can bring up this slideshow, so you can just click on the links in the slideshow itself. Completing the acquisition process and beyond, once your KYC is completed, get a hold of me privately at Pick My Brain, and I'll assist you in setting up your own private wallet where you hold the keys, and then completing an actual purchase with transfer into your own private wallet. So you need to take the time to do that KYC at that prior link, and then re-engage with me, and I'll help you with it. And then from there, we'll go whatever direction interests you. So back to the very beginning. Bitcoin, the link at the bottom, it's case sensitive, http://bit.ly, Bitcoin with a capital B -Y with a capital W -how with a capital H will show you this slideshow and give you access to the links in it. So that is my rapid trip through this. I'm open to questions.
First, does anyone want to just round applause that for a minute?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to have yeah.
Oh, good.
So good. Daniel, you raised your hand. You can definitely go first. You conscious being, did you, or did you mean to? Mark, that blew my mind. Yeah, this is kind of open conversation, but I feel like when I feel it described and certain analogies used, my understanding of it deepens every time. And again, this connection to what fiat limits us to, and how it was engineered was something that really spoke to. It was designed with consciousness in mind, I feel like, really thoughtfully. Sylvia, what did you take away?
I have a better understanding, because this was one of the simplest forms of explanation. I like the checkbook ledger thing, because now I understand what a blockchain is. I did not know the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum or the other ones. And I mean, I've been thinking of buying more Ethereum, but this has sort of changed my mind. And again, just a huge thank you, because I did not understand that I needed a key, a private key. I think that is invaluable information. And I will definitely be switching my Bitcoin, which isn't a lot, but I'm starting to play more, I don't play in anything I don't fully or try to fully understand, but I will definitely be checking out this Go Coin Mania and working on developing a wallet and that kind of thing. Yeah, that amazing information. Thank you.
You're welcome, Sylvia, and thank you for the comments. Yeah, Bitcoin is a store of value. That is its real purpose. Ethereum is the world's largest virtual computer. Very different purposes.
So when they say that you will be able to, Ethereum's going to have quicker purchasing power. That's what I've been reading. Okay.
Right. Ethereum does move a little bit faster than Bitcoin does when it's not swamped. At this point, Bitcoin has outgrown itself.
Yes.
And that's why its transaction fees are so high. And people are starting to look at other smart contract platforms. And if there is a major shift from Ethereum to another smart contract platform, Ethereum will not maintain its value. What's more, Ethereum doesn't have a limited number of coins. If the Central Ethereum group, headed by Vitalik Buterin and the nonprofit organization, vote to issue more Ethereum coins, it's just like forgery to you. Your coins are then worth, if they double it, your coins are worth half what they were.
Okay. And moving forward, are you seeing more and more companies going to invest in Bitcoin if it holds its value so well? Because we are definitely going into an inflation period.
Yes, that is actually what is going to drive the price of Bitcoin, I believe, within 4 years in excess of $1 million a coin.
Woohoo. Okay.
Companies putting cash, they have excess cash, they have to invest that cash somehow, but they still need it to be liquid. That's why they have it as cash. And Bitcoin is that natural liquid asset that has no carry. It doesn't cost you anything to carry it. And you can cash it in any time, and it goes up in value over time. Why would they hold cash when they can hold Bitcoin? And companies are just beginning to wake up to this. And Michael Saylor was the first person to make a huge big deal out of this. And then he fairly quickly convinced Elon Musk to put $1.5 billion in. Michael Saylor has like $2.4 billion already. And they had a summit to which 10,000 company managers attended and are all thinking about doing the same thing. And then Wall Street is maintaining it, they're going to be put, like the Grayscale Trust, for instance, is an ETF. It's not an ETF, but they hold Bitcoin and you can buy shares. But why buy shares in someone that's holding Bitcoin when you can hold Bitcoin yourself, because you're inviting a whole new layer of fraud.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
what Wall
And
Street
tax.
It's fraud.
Cool. Cool.
And every altcoin has its reason for existing. And there's a site called CoinGecko.com. And CoinGecko is a good place to research what the purpose of various altcoins are. And if you haven't read their white paper and don't understand what they're for, you should not invest in it.
Okay.
Yeah, I love it. Yasmin, what did you take away? What was the thing that planted for you? And do you have any questions for Mark?
So I loved it. I think that every time I heard someone saying that, you know, it's a nice idea or it's not a nice idea about Bitcoin, they focus too much on, oh, is it too late? You should to get rich or to make some money, you should have been there for, you know, 5 years ago. And it was good to see you touching like an aspect that is clear to everyone, which is carrying the value. And that I've never seen being taught anywhere. So thank you so much for that. Also, I would like to ask you, what do you suggest in terms of start? Like me personally, one, because I don't have too much to invest, but second, when it's something super new, I like to start small and see how it grows. But I would like you to tell me, what is your idea of how much should I invest to begin with?
That entirely depends on what your risk tolerance is. Most people could give up coffee for a week, and if they pay, let's say they buy Starbucks coffee once a day, and it's what, $8 to $10 for Starbucks coffee, high-end one. And so you're talking $50 a week, 5 days a week. So, okay, automatically invest $50 a week in Bitcoin once a week at the same time of day. Don't worry about the price, what the price is, just make it the same time of day, same day of the week. And as the price goes up and down, you will eventually have the average. You'll have Bitcoin at the average of what the price was during the time you were investing. And since it has never taken more than 4 years from the time somebody invested in Bitcoin till it was worth more than what they paid, even at the very highest points, that trend is likely to continue for some time to come, at least until the majority of the world is on board.
That is such good advice. I have not heard the advice of set it to something that you purchase regularly and buy it over time and like, you know, chip away $50 a week. I think we can all, if we believe in this currency and what it stands for and what it's going to do. I haven't heard, you know, a suggest, and to even out the pricing too. I think that's a great suggestion. And maybe Mark, that's something you could teach people how to actually set up. Yeah. Could you stop sharing your screen so we can see everyone's faces?
Okay.
And then we'll just keep the discussion going.
Okay.
Amazing. Perfect. Thanks. I think that's really cool. Yeah.
I am going to go to my slideshow real quick and share the link in the chat.
Perfect. Okay. Edna, what did you learn and take away today? And do you have any questions for Mark?
Thank you, Mark. Like many things, very fast. So I really like slide 2 because it gave me a very good idea of how things look back in the past, how it looked like now, and with Bitcoin, that difference. I really like that. I'm a little bit more visual. So another thing that I wanted to ask you, what did you say about if Bitcoin is written with capital B, or what was it, blockchain with capital B? Then that's a good one. But if it's written with
it's not a matter of good and bad. The capital B was the first letter in the blockchain word when it was referred to as the Bitcoin blockchain is the one that has a capital B. All other blockchains for altcoins are done with a lowercase b.
Okay.
So Bitcoin gets the capital, and like Bitcoin created their own language. Yeah.
Because each blockchain serves the same purpose for its altcoin, but the Bitcoin blockchain is typically spelled with a capital B.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Nice.
So it's like the Course in Miracles, where your big self is with the big S and your small self is with the small s. That's where I relate it.
It's interesting creating language around an idea, around a new system. It has to have a culture. This thing has a culture. This thing was engineered, right? It was really thought about, the language, you know, and yeah, I find it really interesting. It's its own world. Daniel, what about you? What did you pick up? And do you have any questions?
No, I picked up quite good. Mark did a very good explanation, simple to understand to anybody. I really had no relation with it whatsoever. I don't know anybody who has relations with it. So I've never had conversations about it, just heard it as something far away. And now I feel more certainly knowledgeable about it. And when the day comes, I certainly feel more informed. Not a particular questions about how to invest at the moment or what it is, but to Mark or to you or anybody in the room, do we see a future where we really get rid of all the currencies and we start exchanging back again with other kinds of values? You know, we're now here in England where I live, they're finally starting to put all the what the bills are in plastic. Mexico and Australia, I think, had it already for a while. So we are making it now more durable because, of course, the paper ones was probably more expensive to reprint and everything. The metal ones, we still use coins for so many little silly things where I can tap with my phone on a vending machine almost everywhere. But do we really need to call them so many different ways? And we just can say a unit of a value for the, and since everything relates to labor, is the unit of value for whatever labor you have done, what are you going to get in exchange? We don't have to exchange anymore potatoes for tomatoes to change it then on corn. We can just have this unit, but are we ever going to have a unit?
And that is a very good point. I think Bitcoin is on track to become the world's reserve currency.
Mm.
Of course, no nation wants that. They want their own currency, the world's reserve currency. But the reason it will be Bitcoin is because they'll be able to agree on something that doesn't belong to another nation.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Yeah.
And what COVID has done to all the governments is put them in so much debt. Our governments are in so much debt. So look out taxes and inflation, because it's coming.
Yeah, absolutely. And the United States has been printing dollars out of sight for a long time. And only the fact that the dollar was the world reserve currency has saved us from being the next Argentina, the next Venezuela, et cetera, so far. However, again, centralized versus decentralized. Government is centralized. Government, while it stays small and knows what its purpose is, can do a good job. But as people rely on government, government inevitably grows, and its first responsibility of any entity is its own survival and growth. So government now has grown to the point where it is concerned about itself only and the frauds that it has propagated with the actors that are inside, and there's no reversing it. So what needs to happen is they need to be defunded. And the only way to defund them is have the funds that they are putting out there become worthless.
Yeah.
And so, Daniel, it's a really good point that you probably will not end up using Bitcoin to tap on a vending machine, but there are plenty of other cryptocurrencies that are easily exchangeable for Bitcoin that you can do that with. Or if Lightning ever gets finished to the point where it's usable that way, you'll do it that way. Or you can use a debit card that you fund with Bitcoin, and then it pays in whatever the local currency the vending machine wants. It's all available now. It's lack of enough knowledge on people's part and lack of people taking responsibility to learn what is and use what is and see forward, as opposed to just letting government continue doing things for them.
Isn't that?
But why do we keep printing money? If we can, okay, let's say
because it's not we printing it. Because not we printing it. It's a private corporation known as the Federal Reserve. I'm using the United States now, but everybody else is in a mirror image of this. They will print it anytime the US government says it wants money. So they buy US bonds with money that the US government has printed on the behalf of the Federal Reserve. The US government even pays for the printing, and the fat bankers basically take the excess value off of our dollars, which is why the economy is as bad as it is, because the bankers are taking the value of the dollar out by multiplying the dollars, and that is their game that people have not woken up to. We need to stop playing their game. We need to get into cryptocurrency. We need to do something that's better for us.
I think I heard something that the United States government has printed more money, like a third of the more money has just appeared in the last couple of years. They're just, and I mean, you can tell because costs keep going up. So money, because, we used to be able to buy a home for $200,000. Now it costs us $600,000.
Well, hang on. And I think that's a problem right there. People think costs are going up. Costs are not going up. The dollar is
The
going
dollar's
down.
going down. Yeah, got it.
When you're doing a detective story, you find the common denominator, and the common denominator in costs going up is the one thing that you spend for all of it. And of course, it will all look like going up if that thing is going down. The people need to focus on the dollar going down, not costs going up.
Got it.
Wow. Does this not just like exactly align with what we need to do in the environment too? Like my goodness. And it is just a simple switch in our mind. Daniel, I feel like this is right in alignment with your stuff too. Like this is all the same. It's all the same. Gotta wake up. Wild.
Certainly the less corporations, less offices, less things, you know, I just switched banks here to a bank that has no banks, run by a lady who learned a lot about digital banking in her years, and now is the CEO of this new bank, and everything's just digital. You video yourself with your iPhone and with your phone, and to open your account, and in a few seconds you have an account, and you get your card next day on with a nice presentation, by the way, considering you as a proper customer who is trading his money through them. But yeah, they don't have, and they don't have a branch, they don't have anything, you know. It's just that, because at the end of the day, I never carry cash, and I can't remember last time I carried cash.
So,
It bugs me, cash.
But what you're doing is you're invoking two layers of trust there. You're trusting not only the currency that you're using, but you're trusting that bank to be a legitimate bank and not to steal your money and fold.
Yeah, of course.
So instead of moving to cryptocurrency where your value is in the crypto, and then you change it into whatever currency you need at the moment, you're still sitting on two layers of centralized trust.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I just have a question. I want to do some homework before I make an appointment with you. How do I set up a wallet? How does a human being set up a wallet online? Like, is there?
You don't actually do it online, and in the let's see here, second to last, I was actually hoping you guys would follow through my slideshow yourselves, and that takes you to the point where you get a hold of me and I help you download the wallet, and I help you do the purchase and move it, literally hold your hand through the process, and then you've seen it happen, and then you can ask me to help you again or do it on your own the next time.
Amazing. Okay. I'm gonna, that's actually the perfect. I'm just gonna start to wrap up. It's 12:55. We do these in 60 minutes. I'm just gonna run through a closing screen. But I think that's the perfect question, right? How do I move on this information and this knowledge that I just absorbed if I want to buy into this new way of being and thinking and doing this engineered currency system? Mark can hold your hand, walk you through that first step, make you empowered to do it again. And that's kind of that's the extension of Pick My Brain. Do you want to go further with this individual? Right? One-on-one, do you want him to help you now? We can do that. Yeah. So we'll send all around the information in a follow-up email, but I'm just going to wrap up really quick. And then Mark has said that he can stay a bit longer for those who want to stay and chit chat for a bit. Hi, Dawn. Welcome. We're just
Hi, sorry. I was